Cimraha hula taivsha, Bolkan agus bana vushak. How is every ghost, ghoul, and witch? Failte Olde Scot the Samhain podcast. On today's show, I will take a break from the beginner's course and give you some useful Gaelic vocabulary for Samhain, or if you will, Halloween. And we're going to give you some good old-fashioned scary stories in everyday Celtic ways. Check out the Olde Scot Facebook group, where you can be a part of the Celtic culture and post memes and ideas and things. Alright, Oidhche Shamhna, let's get started. Here's a couple Gaelic words for you for the holiday. Ghost, taivsha. Ghoul, Bolkan. Halloween, Oidhche Shamhna. Witch, Banavushach. Pumpkin, Peacock. Alright, enjoy the song, Halloween.
The tatty liftins nearly through, their pluin while the barley grew, and after dark round Oidhche stack, you'll hear the horseman stand and crack, Lachlan, but I mind on you. A mind fu often we hae seen 10,000 stars cake do not tween the naked branches and below, both fair and bothy hae their show, allow we like so Halloween. There's bears we geysers at their tail, clewed in the doors we run so kail, and fine you'll hear the skirks and skirls, oh lassies we their drooked curls, bobbing for repose in the pale. The bothy fire is a louping head, a new-head horseman's kist is set, breaks all the lumbar by the blaze, the Aldane stood that kept your place, I canna so to see it yet. But gin the old folks' tales are read, and ghasts come hame on Hallow night, oh friends, what would I gie to feel ye racks your hand to me, atween the dark and cannel light. In France across the wave, the wheelacks burn on Oidhche grave, and you and me they'll out hae seen, you'll maybe hae your Halloween, yont where you're lying wi' the lake. There's drink and daffin sang and and dance, and ploys and kisses get their chance. But Lachlan man, the place I see, is where the Oidhche used to be, and the lips o' Halloween in France.
Halloween has Celtic origins. Most scholars agree that Halloween, as we know it, started some 2,000 years ago, when Celtic people in Europe celebrated the end of the harvest and the start of a new year, in a festival called Samhain. It was also a time of communing with the otherworldly spirits, with big bonfires lit in the honor of the dead. In addition to honoring the dead, the Celts also believed that the spiritual presence on Samhain made it easier for Celtic priests to predict the future, which would have been very good for them back then. They built bonfires and burned crops and sacrificed animals to the Celtic gods. Villagers would attend the bonfire wearing costumes of animal heads and skins. And now, some scary stories.
The Dullahan by Jeff MacDonald. The Dullahan is known as the mythical headless horseman and the embodiment of the Celtic god Crom Dubh, a malevolent harbinger of death whose roots lie in a pact with Satan himself. He is said to be an earth-bound demigod who demands blood sacrifice in the form of decapitation. This headless rider roams the lands of Ireland looking for victims whose heads he intends to take, but no one knows why. It is rumored that the Dullahan was a soldier in his previous life and had his head taken from him in battle. Being a pious man who had turned from God, he made a pact with Satan. He would have to collect the souls in order to buy favor in hell and secure a place where he would not be tormented. Satan placed a curse that only can be broken by collecting a certain number of souls in order to buy favor in hell to secure his place. But Satan warned him that he had made this pact plenty of times before, and none had been able to complete it. The Dullahan rides in a black carriage pulled by 6 horses. It is said that these horses ride so quickly and ferociously that fire emanates from both their nostrils and their hooves as they strike the ground. The carriage that some believe he rides is made of old coffins, crumbling tombstones, and bones of rotting flesh, as it was made with whatever he could find near his burial place. He wears a long, tattered black cloak that flows behind him as he rides through the land, and he is known to hold his severed head rotting into the sky, guide and search for the souls that he is destined to take. His severed head has a terrible appearance, covered in rotting flesh that gives off the strong odor of rotting cheese, with a complexion of stale dough. The mouth is split into a terrifying grin as he finds joy in taking the life. The eyes are lit up with an evil fire that dart back and forth, constantly looking for victims. No locked gate can stay closed when he approaches. It bursts open to let the evil Dullahan through, and close on their own after he has finished. As he makes his way through the towns and villages after dark, the people hide behind the curtains. To look him in the eyes will immediately blind you, as he will whip out their eyes with his whip to make them spy. He has the ability to speak only the name of the person whose life he wishes to take. But once the Dullahan states this name, that person hears it, their soul is drawn to appear to him, and there is no defying this call. The Dullahan is believed to appear after sunset on ancient feast days, which is when the people know to be most wary of looking outside after the sun has gone down. The only thing that can frighten or harm him is precious metal, which, when thrown on the ground before him, can cause him and his horses to suddenly stop in their path and turn and flee. Ireland during this time, very poor country. Families were unlikely to possess gold, so so he felt confident. Entering a small village of Glen Craig, he called upon his next victim, a young Irish girl. And when she appeared in front of him, he spoke her name again, but she did not come close to him. So he reached out with his whip made from a human spine, wrapped it quickly around her neck, and pulled the girl close to see what power this frail little girl possessed that would thwart his. He looked deep into her eyes, and she frightenedly looked back, shaking. He tried to call her name a third time, but his curse would not allow it. As he looked around at the villagers staring at his inability, she pulled something from her pocket. She thrust a gold ring into the rotted flesh of his body, past his ribs and into his blackened heart. He reeled back and dropped the girl. Feeling the precious metal within him, he heard the laugh of the village, echoing from house to house. Pain shot through his rotten body, and fire flicked from his wounds, sending to the ground in agony. Behind him, a dimensional rip opened. A large, ugly hellhound burst forth and dragged him into hell in an afterlife of torture and torment. As the rip began to close, Satan stepped forward, looked at the girl, smiled, and bowed in respect. You see, the girl could not go to the Dullahan, you see, because she was deaf and never heard her name called, although she knew the legend. Everyone in Ireland knew the legend.
Alright, special thank you for my friend David Duncan, who did the story reading and the voices, and did a great job. Go check him out on his YouTube channel, Dave Struction Duncan. He does all kinds of videos on there. You're going to love him. Tam O Shanter, a poem by Robert Burns, read by John Kearney in the original Scots language.
When chapmen bellies leave the street, and drouthy neighbours meet, as market days are wearing late and folk begin to tat their gate, while we sit boozing at the nappy, and getting fou and unca happy, we think on the lang Scots miles, the mosses, waters, slaps and stiles, that lie between us and our hame, where sits our sulky, sullen dame, gathering her brows like gathering storm, nursing her wrath to keep it warm. This truth fund on us Tam O Shanter, as he frae air ae nicht did canter. Auld air, whom ne'er a tune surpasses, for honest men and bonny lassies. O Tam, had thou but been sae wise as ta'en thine ain wife Kate's advice, she told thee weel there was a skellum, a blethering, blustering, drunken blellum, that frae November to October, a market day there was nae sober. She prophesied that late or soon there would be fun deep drooned in Doon, or catched by warlocks of the mirk, in Alloway's old haunted kirk. Gentle dames, it gas me greet, to think how many counsels sweet, how many lengthened sage advices the husband fae the wife despises. But to our tale. A market night, Tam had got planted on right, fast by an ingle bleezing finely, with reeman swats that drank divinely, and at his elbow Suitor Joni, his ancient trusty drouthy crony. Tam looed him like a very brother, they'd been fou for weeks together. The next on with sangs and clatter, and aye the ale was getting better. The landlady and Tam grew gracious, with secret favours, sweet and precious. The suitor told his queerest stories, the landlord's laugh was ready chorus. The storm without might rear and rustle, Tam did nae mind the storm a whistle. Kings may be blessed, but Tam was glorious, o'er all the ills of life victorious. But pleasures are like poppies spread, you seize the flower, its bloom is shed, or like the snow falls in the river, a moment white then melts forever, or like the borealis race that flitter, you can point their place, or like the rainbow's lovely form, evanishing amid the storm. Nae man can tether time nor tide, the hour approaches, Tam one ride. That hour, o night's black arch the keystane, that dreary hour, he mounts his beastin, and sack a night he takes the road in, as ne'er poor sinner was abroad in. The wind blew as 'twas blown its last, the rattling shores rose in the blast, the speedy gleams the darkness swallowed, loud, deep, and lang the thunder bellowed. That night a child might understand, the deil had business on his hand. Wheel mounted in his grey mare Meg, a bitter never lifted leg, Tam skelp it on through dub and mire, despising wind and rain and fire, whilst holding fast his good blue bonnet, whilst crooning o'er some old Scots sonnet, was glowering round with prudent care, lest bogles catch him unaware. Kirkalloway was drawing nigh, where geese and hoolets nightly cry. By this time it was crossed the ford, where in the snow the chapments moored, and past the Burts and Meikle Stane, where drunken Charlie broke Snake Bane, and through the winds and by the cairn, where hunters found the murdered bairn, and near the thorn abund the well, where Mungo's mother hanged hersel. Before him Doon pours all his floods, the doubling storm rode through the woods, the lightnings flash frae pole to pole, near and more near the thunders roll, when, glimmering through the groaning trees, Kirkalloway seemed in a breeze. Through ilka bore the beams were glancing, and loud resounded mirth and dancing. Inspiring bold John Barleycorn, what dangers they can make us scorn. We tippany, we fear nae evil, we each of our will face the devil. The swat sae reamed in Tammy's noddle, fair play he cared nae deals a bottle. But Maggie stood right sair astonished, till by the heel and hand admonished, she ventured forward on the light. And wow! Tam saw an unca sight, warlocks and witches in a dance. Nae cotillion brent new frae France, but hornpipes, jigs, to spaes and reels, put life and metal in their heels. A win-up bunker in the east, there sat Old Nick in shape of beast, a towsy tyke, black, grim and large. To give them music was his charge. He screwed the pipes and got them skittle, till roof and rafters all did dirtle. Coffins stood round like open presses that showed the dead in their last dresses, and by some devilish cantrip sleight, each in his cold hand held a light, by which heroic Tam was able to note upon the haly table a murderous banes and gibber airns, twas span lang wi unchristened bairns, a thief new cutted for a rape, wi his last gasp his gab did gape, 5 tomahawks in blood red rusted, 5 scimitars wi murder crusted, a garter which a babe had strangled, a knife a father's throat had mangled, whom his ain son a life bereft, the grey hairs yet stacked to the heft, wi mair a horrible and awful, which even to name would be unlawful. As Tammy glowered, amazed and curious, the mirth and fun grew fast and furious. The piper loud and louder blew, the dancers quick and quicker flew. They reeled, they set, they crossed, they cleek it, till ilka carlin swat and reek it, and cussed their daddies to the work, and lick it at it in their sark. Oh Tam, had they been queens, oh plump and strapping in their teens, their sarts instead of crishy flinin, been snow white 1700 linen, their breeks of mine my only pair, the dints were plush, I get blue hair, I would have given them off my hearties, for a blink of the bonny birdies, but withered beldams, old and droll, rigwoody hags with speen or foal, loping and flinging in a crummock. I wonder didn't he turn her stomach, but Tam ken what was one fool but Ollie. There was a winsome wench and Wally that night enlisted in the corps. Her cutty sark o' paisley harn, which is a lassie she had worn in longitude though sorely scanty, it was her best and she was vaunty. A little kinder reverend granny, that sarchy cough for her wee nanny with 12 pun Scots, to his o'er riches, would ever grace a dance o' witches. But hear my muse harrowing mancour, sick flights of her beyond her poor, to sing how Nanny lap and flang, a supple jade she was and strang, and how Tam stood like in bewitched, and thought his very een enriched. Even Satan glowered, and fidge foo fain, and hocht and blew we might and main, till first a caper sign another, Tam tint his reason all together, and roars out, "We'll done cut his sack!" And in an instant, all was dark. And scarcely had he Maggie rallied, when out the hellish legion sallied. As bees besoot wi angry folk, when plundering hares assail their bike, as eager runs the market crowd, when cat the thief resounds aloud, so Maggie runs, the witches follow. Oh Tam, you'll get your fern, and hell they'll roast you like a hern. In vain thy Kate awaits thy coming, Kate soon will be a wolf a woman. Now do thy speedy utmost, Meg, to win the keystane of the brig. There thou thy tail may toss, her run and stream the den across. But ere the keystane she could make the fiend to tail she had to take for Nanny, hard afore the rest, hard upon noble Maggie pressed, and flew at Tam with fury. quickly settle, but little was she Maggie's mettle. He sprang, brought off her master hale, but left behind her ain grey tail. The carlin caught up with a rump, and left poor Maggie scarce a stump. Now, wha this tale of truth shall read, elk man and mother's son take heed, whene'er to drink you are inclined, or cutty sarks run in your mind, think you may buy the joys o'er dear. Remember, Tam O Shanter's mare.
Mary Culhane of the Dead Man, written by Jeff MacDonald. Mary Culhane lived in a faraway Ireland, which is nicknamed Too Faraway Ireland, since it is so remote. She was the oldest of 6 children, and they were poor. Dirt poor, as you might say, for her father earned a meager living by digging graves at the graveyard near the far edge of their small rural town. One day her father came home, bone-tired as he always was, and he plopped himself down in his comfortable easy chair. As the tension of the day left him, he let out a sigh of relief. Ugh. Mary then heard him exclaim from his resting place, "Hi, I can't believe it. I left me prized blackthorn walking stick back at the tree. The only thing me dear father gave me. It'd probably be gone by the morning," he exclaimed in disgust at his own mistake. Mary Culhane ran from the kitchen, grabbed her shawl, and bolted to the door. "I'll get it for you, father." She ran out the door before anyone could stop her, for no one, absolutely no one, went into the cemetery after dark. And indeed it was dark before she got there. A big moon, though, was just on the horizon as she entered the cemetery gate. She had been here many times before the graveyards and didn't scare her, but that was in the daytime. She carefully walked around the graves, for she'd been taught from the time she was a wee lass not to walk over them. It was bad luck. She picked her way around the graves until she saw the walking stick lying against the old oak tree. Why, her father must have stopped her there to have his lunch and forgot it. In a rush to retrieve the stick, Mary forgot to watch where she was, stepping and fell into an open grave. As quickly as she could, she got up on her hands and knees, but as she did, she felt someone or something crawl on her back. Before she could even try to get whatever it was off of her, an evil voice whispered in her ear, Mary Culhane, I've been waiting for you. Now you must take me in town to get something to eat, for I hunger and thirst." Mary knew this was an evil creature. She could tell by its scaly fingers and fetid breath. Mary realized that she suddenly had no will of her own. She was helpless and fated to do only as the evil creature bade her. She reached up to the top of the grave and pulled with all her strength. She felt as if she were bearing the weight of the world on her shoulders, but somehow she managed to lift herself and the creature onto the soft grass above. She lay prone while creature screamed, "Get up, Mary Culhane! Get up and take me into town." Mary slowly rose. With that creature riding her back, she trudged toward the village. It came to the main road, where the first house appeared. "Now, Mary Culhane, take me into this house, so I may feed." Mary tried to resist, but was unable. So when she reached for the first step, the second step, and was ready to reach for the third, the creature cried out, "Not here, Mary Culhane, for I smell the stench of holy water." Mary stepped down and went to the second house. "Now, Mary Culhane, bring me inside this house." But again she reached the third step, and the creature cried in
No, Mary Culhane, take me away, for I smell the stench of holy water.
Mary again retreated and walked down the road until they came to the third house. She took the first step, the second, the third, and the creature said not a word.
Take me into the kitchen, Mary, and find me something to eat.
Mary walked down the darkened hallway to the kitchen. There she let the creature slide off her back onto a chair.
Quickly, Mary Culhane. I don't have much time.
Mary looked all about. Finally, she said,
I'm sorry, all I can find is some oatmeal and some dirty water.
Mary Culhane, I will teach these people to not leave me anything. Let me on your back.
Mary again did as the creature commanded to do.
Now, take me up these stairs.
No, no!
Mary screamed inside her head, for she knew this family, and she knew that the three boys, her classmates, slept upstairs. But she was powerless under the weight of the evil one's spell. She slowly made her way to the top of the stairs. There in the moonlight she could barely make out figures of the three boys fast asleep on their beds. The creature slid off her back and went over to each boy. He took out a sharp knife and slit each boy's finger. With the first drop of blood, their breathing stopped. With the second drop of blood, their hearts stopped beating. With the third drop of blood, all life left their bodies. He took the vial of blood and climbed on Mary's back.
Take me back down to the kitchen, Mary Culhane, so we may feast.
Mary, sad, had no choice but to walk down the stairs and into the kitchen. The creature slid off Mary's back and onto the chair. He took the oatmeal and poured it into 2 bowls. Then he took a vial of blood and began to pour it over the oatmeal. When he finished, he gave 1 bowl to Mary and said,
Now, eat this.
No, no!
She cried. She could not eat this bloody gruel, not stained with the blood of her friends.
Do it, and do it now.
She picked up a spoon and brought a spoonful to her lips. The creature, satisfied, picked up his bowl and began greedily to gobble his portion down. Mary saw her chance. She quickly, spoonful by bloody spoonful, put the tainted oatmeal into the folds of her neckerchief around her neck. She had just finished when the creature put down his bowl and wiped his bloody mouth with his tattered sleeve.
Mary Culhane, I see you are done. Now, clean this place, so no one will know we have been here.
Mary reached for the 2 bowls and began to wash them out. She waited until the creature turned away and put the neckerchief into the 2 bowls into the cabinet.
Hurry, Mary Culhane. I must get back to my grave before morning.
She slowly walked over and again positioned himself on her back. She turned to go back down to the hallway.
No, Mary Culhane. We cannot leave by the way we came.
For 'tis the way with all evil creatures. They must return by a different path. So Mary turned around and went out the back door. She was ready to walk down the steps when the creature laughed in this insane laughter.
Mary Culhane, tell me what you see.
Mary looked out on the horizon.
I see 3 hills. They call the Haunted Hills.
And Mary Culhane began to fear for her own life.
Do you know why, Mary? I'll tell you why. because buried in that little mound is all the gold and silver the evil ones have gathered over the many years. But only the dead know of it.
So now she knew of the gold. He wouldn't possibly let her live, knowing the secret. On and on into the night they went. The creature evil stories that no one wants to hear. The moon set in the western sky, throwing the sky into pitch black. Finally, started to approach the cemetery, back by the road. As they did, a rooster crowed.
Ah! Very great. What is that awful noise?
Mary knew full well it was a rooster, and that this must be close at hand. But, he said,
This is nothing but the bleating of a sheep.
Hurry, Mary Culhane, hurry!
Mary reached the graveyard and was trying to find her way around the graves when the inky black sky turned a soft gray, and again they heard the rooster crowing.
Ah! Mary Culhane, what is that foul noise?
It is nothing I say, but the bark of a dog.
Quickly, Mary Culhane, for I feel myself weaken.
Mary saw the oak tree. She saw the open grave. She walked slowly towards it. Just then, the sky broke open, and the first beam of morning drew across the sky and into the graveyard. The rooster crowed for a third time. Mary felt the creature jump, frightened, from her shoulders and slither into the pit. As it did, it cried,
Ah, Mary Culhane, you tricked me. I don't have time to kill you. If I would know that you were to live, I never would have told you of the gold.
Suddenly a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders, and at once she had her will to do as she would. She glanced down in the grave, but all she saw were the whitened bones of the evil creature. She grabbed her father's walking stick, used it to tilt the creature's head over, causing it to crash down upon him within his grave. Then Mary used it as she hurried home. Once there, she threw herself onto a bed and fell into a deep sleep. A couple of hours passed when her mother ran into her room.
Mary, wake up. Something terrible has happened in town. Mary, please wake up.
Mary stirred, and her mother could see that her hair was matted and tangled, and darkened circles smudged her eyes. Her dress was dirty and looked like blood stained her apron. Her mother backed out of the room, scared.
Mary, just get some sleep. Or meet us at your friend's home, the one with the 3 boys.
Mary again fell into a deep sleep, but this time was full of dreams. Dreams of an evil creature, the boys, the knife, the blood. Oh, the blood! Then she suddenly awoke. She realized it wasn't a dream. It had happened. But she remembered something else. As they were walking back to the graveyard, she had asked the evil creature if there wasn't some way that those boys could have lived. The creature just laughed.
Ha ha ha, Mary Culhane, there was a way. There's always a way. You see, if they were to drink their own blood, they could have lived. But as you ate your potion, now there's no way.
But there was a way. She hadn't eaten her portion. Maybe, just maybe. She got herself bathed, put on a fresh dress, and headed toward town. When she got to the boys' home, she could see that the entire village was trying to console the desolate parents. When she went up to the father and said,
Please let me inside.
Oh, Mary, I can't do that. What is upstairs in that bedroom is not fit for a young lass to see.
But you don't understand. I know a way to save their lives. I beg you.
Ah, Mary, if you could save me 3 sons' lives, I'd give you anything in my power to give.
Just let me go in alone,
she demanded. The father cleared the house, and Mary entered. She walked down the darkened hallway to the kitchen. She opened the cabinet, and there was a neckerchief right where she had left it. She grabbed a spoon and went up to the stairs. She saw the lifeless forms of the three boys. She gently went over and put the spoon to their lips. With the first drop of blood, gasp! The boy began to breathe. And the second drop of blood, their hearts started to beat. And with the third drop of blood, all life came back into their bodies. What a rejoicing there was when Mary walked outside, and behind her the three boys were alive and well. For 3 days and 3 nights there was a celebration like none before. On the third night the father came to Mary.
Mary, you have made me the happiest man to ever live. You gave me my 3 boys back. And Mary, I want to give you something. Anything, name it. Please, Mary, tell me.
Well, Mary said,
would you teach me that land behind your house? The one with the 3 hills on?
I'd give you that and much more. As the oldest of the 3 boys, who was Mary's age, walked up and took her hand. So right there they wrote up a contract. After a long courtship, and when Mary had become of age, she married that boy. And don't you know what they built the foundation of their house between the 2 hells? And when they dug down, they found gold. Gold and jewels and silver. There was enough that Mary Culhane was a rich woman, and her father would never had to pick up a shovel again. She had another stone slab placed over the creature's grave, and a headstone placed with a particular warning. In this graveyard, never go, unless soon the rooster will crow. And even though the events of that night slowly faded away like a bad dream, there was something Mary Culhane never forgot, and that was to keep holy water at the front door.
Well, that's it for today's show. Hope you liked it. Hope you didn't scare you too bad. Top Love Harrison. I hope all you ghosts and ghouls have a great Halloween, or should I say, Samhain. All right. Remember, check out my YouTube channel, Olde Scot. It's got Learn a Gaelic song videos, Celtic podcast videos, speaking our language videos, Celtic movies, and a couple even more scary stories if you want. My Facebook group, check it out. It's Olde Scot. You can give me your insights on all things Celtic. Marshall Leave and Drozda. Bye for now. But I'm going to let you go with a song. And while this may not be very Celtic, it is one of my favorites for Halloween. And I hope you like it.
In the lab late one night, when my eyes beheld an eerie sight, for my monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise, he did the monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. He did the monster mash. From my laboratory in the castle east to the master bedroom where the vampires feast, the ghouls all came from their humble abodes to get a jolt from my electrodes. They did the monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. They did the monster mash. The zombies were having fun. The party had just begun. The guests included Wolfman, Dracula and his son. The scene was rocking, all were digging the sounds. Igor on chains, backed by his baying hounds. The coffin bangers were about to arrive with their vocal group, the Crypt Kicker 5. They played the monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. They played the monster mash. Out from his coffin Drax's voice did ring. Seems he was troubled by just one thing. Opened the lid and shook his fist and said, "Whatever happened to my Transylvania twist?" It's now the monster mash. And it's a graveyard smash. It's caught on in a flash. It's now the monster mash. Now everything's cool, Drax a part of the band, and my monster mash is the hit of the land. For you, the living, this mash was meant to. When you get to my door, tell them Boris sent you. Then you can monster mash and do my graveyard smash. You'll catch on in a flash. Then you can monster mash. Easy go, you impetuous young boy.